What?
Give them all to Thurston.
There we go. Hi.
Seriously. All right.
We're
Hello,
back.
everyone, and welcome. I think we're back. I'm going to be looking distracted at the screen for a second.
Sweet. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We were just discussing how after the year of Nurgle and the Nurgle Times duel at Highlander, dual win, I'm switching over. Gonna go to Slaanesh. It's going to be great.
Excellent. What made you take that choice?
Some Adepticon announcements, but I don't think we're at Adepticon yet. I think we're still talking Highlander, but we'll get to Adepticon because, oh boy, Keeper of Secrets. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that model looked gorgeous.
Yeah.
Someone actually, I saw someone posted something. They used someone was using the top half of that model, or the one from Forge World, and they used the Venom Crawler from the new box as the base.
The base, yeah.
And it looked pretty good.
There's some.
That was very much it. That was something out of a nightmare.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so hopefully the system doesn't crash this time. We're gonna try and bring you some stats. Oh my god. All right,
Stats.
I'm gonna rotate the monitor here so that these guys can look at them.
Look.
HDMI cables.
That's not the computer turning off. Don't worry. Don't worry, Fabio. You're good. That's just a monitor that we can't see right now.
I'm just gonna pull this up on my phone. So
Do it up. So.
Go there.
You should be looking at the best overall stats now. We've got Thurston Hillman with a grand total of 93.2.
Wow. You can hear our voice.
Yeah, you might want to turn that down.
There we go.
Okay, fine.
Look at that ugly mug, though.
Look at that beautiful mug.
ugly
Jamie
mug.
was so happy. She said the composition on that shot was mwah.
I mean, it was.
Wow.
We're gonna have to work. Like I said, we're gonna have to work with Thurston on how to better advertise.
I don't know.
The bottle is backwards, so you don't know what he's drinking.
True.
The trophy is on the wrong event.
Might I reply with the same thing I replied to you on Facebook? Wouldn't have mattered if it was on the right event because the shield crests on that event are wrong anyways.
Man,
Hey-o!
We'll never know though. We'll never know. Prove it.
I set up a big light right here, but there's already so much shade.
But yeah, so if you look at the points overall, this is. Does it actually state there? If for those that don't know, we do our overall based on generalship.
What's the points? Like the 0.2.
Because it takes average 33%, right? Generalship is 33%.
Oh,
right?
I gotcha. Okay.
Sportsmanship
Okay.
is 33%.
Yeah.
Paint is 33%. So you
Makes more sense now. Okay.
Yeah. So Thurston clearly, I guess, I don't even know what the total points would have been out of 93.2 out of X. I don't know what that was. I can't remember. But yeah, so clearly Thurston did pretty well overall, I'd say.
Yeah. I just showed up.
Nice.
Yeah, Sean and Mark rounded out the top three. And it was pretty close. Up until 20? Well, I guess 80s, 70s. Yeah, from 11th to 24th is all in the 60s, right? So it was a pretty good spread, and then
Nice.
so it was good. I don't know. Looked like overall was. I would say the biggest thing for me is it's nice to see the painting continually getting better.
Yeah.
Well, just not per person, but just as an overall observant, just observing overall armies.
Definitely seemed like people made sure their stuff was done for this.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's push up those stats now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, there's less three colors kind of thing. People are kind of just trying to push that next level, which is nice to see.
And we can see Thurston places second here in favorite army, second to your good friend and mine, Alex Bedard.
Yep.
And those blue orcs. Those blue orcs are incredible.
So go to the Facebook page,
Yes.
and there's a folder that has all the pictures from the event.
Yep.
That people took. I have actually a lot more that I have to upload as well. Still. Mm-hmm. So when you see the blue orcs, you will know
They are incredible.
they are.
Yes.
It's actually funny because Alex had a big sheet of paper that literally said on it, "Remember your
6++, and the rerolls.
And the rerolls.
Because Death Skulls, which is what he's playing, have the reroll a wound, reroll a hit, reroll an armor save on every unit.
Yep. And you need those kind of reminders and statistics if you want to take Best General, which is our next set of stats.
Whee!
So Sean Clancy with his, was it Pure Zinch or was it Thousand Suns? I forget.
I'm pretty
Thousand
sure
Suns.
Thousand Suns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the only demon player there, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he brought Magnus and he brought a whole bunch of Thousand Suns.
Because he had Zangors in there, but those are Zinch, so yeah, or Thousand Suns. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah,
you took.
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Thurston takes second in this, and Victor Grijalva Mendoza takes third.
What was he playing?
Orcs.
Orcs.
Oh,
The Orkies.
Yeah.
yes. I remember
And
seeing
who
that
else
one
was
now.
playing? Was it Corey that was playing? No, Corey wasn't playing Orcs. Corey Struss. Corey Welsh was. Right? I think it's Corey Welsh. Yeah.
It's interesting too, like the way that last game really shuffled things up, because like I look at my opponent from my last game, and yeah, like we were on what was my understanding at that time was effectively like one of the two top tables, and then like just that one loss in a 3-day tournament can just really drop you down, which is
Nice.
Well, he went to 10th, right?
he went to 12th.
Oh,
Yeah,
12th,
which is
okay.
like that's the
He's tied
thing.
for
Yeah.
10th, but
Yeah.
yeah. But still, yeah, that's a big swing, right?
Well, and
Because-
we saw a lot more, I think, because of how the points worked in this. We didn't see as many, like there were no 12-12-12s.
there
Because it was, or sorry,
there was
11.
11s. There was
Yeah,
none.
there was none. There was one who
Sean
came
Clancy had the 11-11-10.
10. Yeah,
You had 10-10-10.
Yeah.
So everything was below that, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting to sort of see that, like that breakdown of the math, and like where you can kind of see how people like who maybe had 2 draws, or maybe they had a really solid win and then like 2 losses. The math on that is interesting with how we had the victory points and kind of like changed the pack very radically. Like going into the last game, I remember there were a bunch of people kind of sitting around like looking at BCP every 2 seconds, like who are we playing? Playing? And I was like, at one point, I think I was like looking that I was going to walk into my last game against Ultramarines. So I'm like drunkenly stumbling around, like, well, how do I do against Blue Smurfs? And then, sure enough, I ended up playing Dark Angels at the last table, and I'm like, oh, shoot.
The other Blue Smurfs.
Yeah.
What do I do against Green Smurf?
Green Smurf, she.
So yeah, no, it's very, very, very telling.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a couple more stats sheets
Oh,
to
yeah.
go through, and then the much anticipated beer stats.
Oh, my.
Favorite opponent. Now, this is a thing that I'm always curious about. How do you guys rate your opponents for sportsmanship and determining favorite opponent? I think that's always like the award that's the highest compliment to receive. So, like, tell me about that. How do you weight your favorite opponent scoring?
I mean, for me, it's, and the way we've, I mean, I know the backside, but we structured it with the intent that a 3 is a standard game. Like you resolve all your conflicts relatively civilly.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, you get through your game in a timely manner. You know, you have you crack a couple jokes or whatever. Like everybody shits the bed on some dice rolls. You know, you ha each other.
Yeah.
It's like sucks, bro. Like whatever, and that's kind of your middle of the pack kind of thing. And then you deviate from there. I mean, a 1 it would have to be it'd have to be a pretty bad game, like for I don't know, a plethora of reasons.
I can think of like one game I've ever had that I've had to score an opponent a 1.
Yeah,
like,
I think I've had. I maybe had a couple.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, yeah, like most of my games were like mine were, I would say 3 to 4s.
Okay.
Like I never like an exceptional game.
5s
for me
are hard. Yeah.
Should be hard to achieve. Like it's got to be something that would stand out. Actually, that's a lie. I believe it was Brendan a 5. So my game is in Necrons. I gave him a 5 because because some of the because there's some like I brought up.
See how this is.
I already brought up. Oh, you're hilarious! I brought up a few mentions of that game that were just hilarious, and like so those kind of things still stick with me.
Yeah.
Which are things that I know they will continue to stick with me as things that I remember in that game.
Yeah.
So that for me keeps it up there. Like it's not necessarily things that he went out of his way to do or anything like that. It's just the game overall was just an excellent game.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And it was just
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like there was just a lot of like funny shit that happened, and both being Necrons is like most of it was stuff we didn't anticipate happening. Or like so another one, he Veil of Darkness his Lord and a squad of destroyers in my back line. and I was moving around. And at one point, I looked down, I saw those destroyers, and I thought they were mine. So I kept doing stuff. And then at the while I was moving my last squad, I'm like looking back. I'm like, wait, these are my destroyers. Like, what the fuck was I looking at? I looked back. I'm like, shit! And they were literally right in front of me. This blob of destroyers. He's in my back line, gonna wrap my shit. And I was like, oh shit! So I had to move them the other way to go deal with these things. And so stuff like that happened, and it was just super funny. So yes, I gave him a 5. But my other games, they're great games, but they were more average. So they were 3s and 4s. You know, just that's where most games should stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole dropping 5s on everyone, like you mentioned earlier, shouldn't happen.
See, and I'm gonna be a bad person because I had we've talked in the past. I've had bad tournament experiences in the past. I think everyone out there has. Yeah. I've had some tournaments where I'm I'm taking a break from this hobby for a bit because if I don't, it'll end poorly. And with my games this year, I just lucked out on all 3 of my opponents in terms of we got down, and we were talking a bit about this before the show, but I got down, immediately was able to talk through the social contract, which I think is a very important thing to discuss with your opponent. What kind of game are you going to have? And all of my opponents, I started sober with Ryan, and so I'm I'm going to be drinking during this. I'm going to try to be laid back. Here's all the shenanigans I can do. I don't want to win on gotchas. And we just had this good back and forth discussion like that. And then, my next game was against Homer, and it was the same thing. And my last game was against Corey, and it was a very similar sort of situation where we knew we were on top table, and that this is the marbles on the line. Yeah. And when I sat down, I'm first off, I want to make sure we have a fun game, and that we're both enjoying what we're doing, and that what I can do, I know what you can do, let's not have gotchas if there's some mistakes or whatever. And we had this really solid game, and again, talking about it before the show, there were a few moments where Thirsty did some beer stats coming soon, but I had a really big building in the center of the table, and there was kind of this patch where I could roll all of my dice right in front of me, which I needed at that point, but they were positioned behind this building. So Corey was tall guy, but this building's really tall. He couldn't see all the dice, the ones that went up against the building. He asked, politely asked, hey, can you shift those to the left? I'm absolutely I can. Sweet. And then during the course of the game, we also had I forgot this assault that will mean nothing except we're just going to be having scouts and nurglings fight the whole game. And he's yeah, move them in. It's that's what I'm going to do to you. And I think that was just the tone for the event with all my opponents. So I really lucked out, and it's all of these were some of the most memorable. I still remember really key moments from each of those games. There was laughter, there was oh, this is a clutch moment. Those were all really good, and I think that really contributed to just my mood at the event, and then kind of going through into that last game even where I kept that up, which was great.
So as we can see from the stats page here, this is something that you would have won had you not won best runner overall. You were first in favorite opponent. Mark Steven ends up taking it because otherwise it would have been you.
Well, and that's a dumb thing.
Question to you. What do you do to earn those 5s from your opponents, which you so clearly received?
Lol, what? No. Okay. So I have a couple of these awards at home, but most of that comes down to what I talked about before, which is that social contract. I walk up to a table and it's this is the kind of game, I don't want this to be some, we're going down to millimeters unless it's the last turn and this is a deciding move. Things are going to happen in this game. I am willing to give you a take back if you're going to give me a take back, and vice versa. Talk that stuff out, because the worst thing you get is to the last turn of the game or some critical moment, and you gotcha your opponent. No one wants to win that way, and that's how you lose these points. And I think it comes down to just talking to your opponent. One thing I always do throughout the course of the game, and it's probably to my detriment, but I talk out with my opponent all my intention. So it's in every game, I told my opponents clear out, like, if you want to stop me, like, this is the thing you have to kill. This is what you're going to have to do to stop my, like, tricks. These are the tricks I'm going to do. Okay, it's my, top of turn. I'm going to move forward. My goal is to get as far forward as possible, throw bodies in your face, pray you don't kill enough, and then I'm going to tie you up this game. And I'll tell them that, because surprising someone and getting them in that, especially if you're doing like things like, well, the trick to getting my army is to kill the Nurglings, ignore everything else, the Nurglings have to die, like, unless they're sitting on the key objective. No, that's the wrong advice. And if I tell you to do that and you throw everything into them, because I don't know, you need everything to kill Nurglings maybe, and then like I win because all my other stuff like just steamrolls you, then that's not a fair game. Like, I feel that I want my opponent to know what I can do. I want to know what they can do, and
give them the option to put their best foot forward and try and stop your gimmick.
Yeah, and
right?
Exactly, because it
and
is.
Then at that point, at the end, if it's like, well, he told me what he could do, I tried to stop it, and I couldn't, and I lost. Yeah. It's a lot easier to swallow than he told me the wrong thing or he told me nothing, in which you mentioned the gotcha moment.
Yeah, and sometimes what comes up in these events, like you were mentioning, like, even in your games you had to have a judge over. In 2 of my games I had to get a judge over, and they were for things that, like, in some cases it was, I don't want to gotcha my opponent. Like, I was checking, like, on one of the tactical cards, I had to check my rules to be like, I feel that this works to my benefit, but I want to make sure before before this comes up with my opponent. And then, like, in another game, I ended up asking my opponent, like, hey, this rules interaction seems really quirky. Can you, like, just pull up the paragraph? And, like, I just like to read it, so, like, I know what this is. Yeah. And what I think's important about that, as you may see from the scores, like, it's not like any of my opponents, like, docked me or hated me for asking to have a judge over, or like, I think everyone wants to make sure they're doing things correctly. And, like, going back to that moment of me, like, rolling dice behind the building, it was like, oh, I've been told, okay, I'll move this over. Like, this is a dialogue we need to have. Otherwise, yeah, you get those sort of, like, festering moments, and no one wants to walk away from a table and then basically be told, like, you gotcha'd me and you're a jerk. It's 1. And it's like, well,
should have kept up with 3 FAQs and the 3,200 pages of rules you need to play this game.
Well, yeah, it's tough. Moments. It's tough. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where I find that, like, the social contract, I obviously I work in the role-playing game industry. When you have a bunch of nerds sitting down at a table rolling dice and they're basically storytelling, the big thing there is that you've got to have a social contract for, like, what people are agreeing to do and what type of game you want to have. And so I don't know. I always just sort of lay that out with my opponent and then go from there and see how it goes.
That's legit.
Absolutely.
We've got Clank P304 in the chat saying they always give at least 1 take back. Like, what's your guys' baseline for that?
I think this. That's a tough one. I think it's got to be a game by game thing.
Depends on the level of take back too.
Yeah, like, I think
that's
you have to hold, like, for me personally, I don't like allowing myself to take anything back.
Yeah.
I don't learn that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my philosophy. I think that doesn't mean that I'm not going to allow people to take things back, but and while people say I can take things back, generally I won't. Just because it's more for my benefit that I don't do it. But, like, I think where you are in the standings can play a role. Yeah. I think where in the game you are and how critical remembering your rules are can play a role. So I think, like, the more variables that are crucial, I think the less likely I am to allow it, or how far beyond that last move.
Yeah, how much information was gained as a result of, like, continuing to play after that moment.
If this squad was moved here, and then my opponent goes to move something else, he's like, oh, actually I want to move this back and go a different way, and it's like, yeah, sure, go nuts. Like, it's not like that's, but like we talked about earlier, it's like, well, squad X shoots at squad Y, we resolve, and then it's like, oh, I forgot to use a psychic power to buff that squad that would have changed the outcome of that shooting attack. It was like, okay, like, that's a phase different, that's a lot of results different. We're on a timer, right? Like, doing that too much can
there was no game information changed. There in your first example, like there wasn't an opportunity for you to interfere with that. You wouldn't have done anything differently, but in the second, there absolutely was.
Absolutely.
I think too, like Fabio said at the beginning, it's also there's a lot of case by case. Like generally, I tell my opponent like, if you need to take back, I'll give it to you. But it comes to like that degree of like what is an important take back, like, and how do you as a player want to win?
Yeah.
Because a perfect example of this was my second game against Homer when I'm playing his Knights, and I get like, he's taken my Toad unit, first guy to take them all out. Good job, Homer. But he's at this point in the game, he's taken them down to like 3 Toads. And I finish all my movement. Most of our game, honestly, was my moving around and holding objectives, because that was how I was going to win against Knights.
Yeah.
But at one point, so I'd finished moving everything, and I guess like the Toads are gonna like use their tongues on you in close combat because they're pistols, and I like roll like the 4 like bolt pistol equivalent tongues on a Knight, and nothing happens. And then I'm like, okay. Then I pause. I'm like, oh shoot, forgot my psychic phase. And it's like I had like 1 or 2, like pretty important powers, but like okay, like my mistake. Like we're moving, and Homer's like no, I'm not. Like you were obviously going to cast them. You were doing the shooting as a joke. Like go back and do it. What kind of opponent would I be if I said no, sir? And it's like you have that like again that social contract with your opponent. Is like he doesn't want to like try to claw back a game that's at this point looking pretty grim for him by doing stuff like that. And I get like it all depends on the situation, but like that was a really class act from him, and why I say like some of these games were some of the best I've had in a very long time.
And a lot of people have the philosophy that generally you're losing sports. Like sportsmanship is reflected poor. Like you tend to get less points for when you win games than if you lose the game. That's actually not the case. Like I hope it's not the case. I hope there should never be a direct correlation. Like you should be able to win and lose a game and still get average to above average sportsmanship. Like,
I mean, it works for me.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, but that goes to that social contract. That goes to your philosophy. That goes to how you kind of set that tone.
Yeah.
That really makes the game more enjoyable for both you and your opponent.
You want to know what you're getting into. That's the thing with any of these games. You're going to spend like 2.5 hours across a table with someone, win or lose. You want to make sure that those 2.5 hours are memorable. You want to be able to like go to another tournament, have a beer with that person, like follow up with them in the tournament. Like I know, like I'd talk to Ryan and be like, hey, how was like your second game? How was your third? Like people were coming up, like Homer would come up and be like, how'd the last game go? Like that is something, that's how you build friendships, and you get something out of this community more than I'm showing up, I'm pushing toy soldiers across the table, I'm leaving, I'm going home, I'm planning to crush the next random opponent who I don't care who it is next week. Like that's not what this game is about.
No. Speaking of what you're getting into, faction breakdown stats. Because I haven't broadcasted those yet. We had, unbelievably, 4 orcs and 4 necrons joining 4 Astra Militarum players at the top of the field.
I'd just like to thank James, Brendan, and myself for stepping up and dusting off the crons.
He's
nice.
He's sitting on that all
Oh,
episode.
yeah. 15 minutes, yeah. Absolutely. Then we had 3 each of Craftworld Eldar and Adeptus Astartes, 2 each of Death Guard Adeptus Sororitas, 2 Sisters of Battle Players, Knights, and then 1 each of, 2 Drakari and Cult Mechanicus, which I believe is...
It's still Adeptus Mechanicus, still.
And then 1 each of Thousand Sons, Demons, which was you, Custodes, Tau, Dark Angels, Renegade Knights, Tyranids, Gene Sealer Cults, thank you, representing you. Just make my heart so warm before the Tyranids will eat it. 1 Yunari and 1 Space Wolves player.
Yeah.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
What's the FAQ on that? Can I play those?
No.
No.
Dang it.
Get out.
Bye.
Leave.
All right.
Done.
So this concludes all the stats sheets we had made up, and now we're going to get to.
Thanks for putting those.
Dark
on.
Almond is saying in the chat, we're having too much fun. Please quiet down. Card players are concentrating.
Thanks, Alex.
Sure, you haven't seen the fun we're gonna have yet. I have Thurston's beer stats right here.
Oh boy.
So.
What does that even mean? Beer stats.
So, over the course of the game, or the day, Thurston consumed a number of beers, and I decided I was going to track this and try and pull some fun statistics together for today's podcast. If you were at Highlander and you heard Thurston just shouting across the room,
If you were at Highlander,
If you
basically,
were at
and not
Highlander.
deaf.
yeah, if you were at Highlander, you heard Thurston shouting across the room, going, "Hey, Josh, 13!"
Oh, that's what
That was him telling me how many beers he had had. So,
something new today.
to give a rundown of Thurston's beers during the event, you had 2 before game 1 started.
Yes.
By the
10
end,
a.m.
10 a.m.
Yes.
The bar opens and Thurston's like,
No, actually, people went and got for me. The first 2 I got were delivered to me.
so it's everyone else's fault for powering you up in this way.
It's fair. I would like to thank Ryan, my first opponent, and Derek. That was awesome. Thank you.
Peer pressure.
By the end of game 1, you are on your 4th beer.
Yep.
You had concluded your 4th beer.
Tooth during that.
At this point, you scored 10-1 at this game. So at this point, you were at 2.5 points per beer.
Okay.
You're scoring at that rate. And you had 0.1 points allowed per beer. By the start of game 2, you were on your 6th beer. And this was actually a slow rate for you. You only consumed 1 beer over the course of game 2 that I have written down.
No, because... Well, no, there was probably another one in there, but I probably just announced it to you later because Kate, bless her heart, was doing runs for
Okay.
us, so...
Because I was going to say that you end game 2 again at 10-2, and we're going to compile the rest of these stats once I finish running down the beers. But it was stunning because somehow, despite it being the shortest break of the day, between the end of game 2 and the start of game 3, I have you consuming 4 more beers.
Oh, yeah.
You were on your 11th beer at the start
Yeah,
of game 3.
so there was probably 2 during that game that were missed, and then I had 2 during that break.
Yes, absolutely.
There we go.
So beer
Important
11
math here.
at the start of game 3, and then by the end of the game 3, you were at 14 beers.
Double Nurgle's holy number.
Yes. you were.
Legitimate, there was like a wall of beers on the side.
There
of the table.
was. I have photos of just
And
Yep.
there were some damaged
You could make-
bottles. There were some
Well, there
damaged
was an excellent moment because again, social contract. I'm like, I'm gonna be drinking. I've already had a lot to drink. I'm like, Corey, I'm gonna go start me up. You want? Yeah, we did that. But then during the game, what had happened was in one of these, old time Adeptus Mechanicus Imperial sector buildings with not the ones that have the bigger squares, but the ones that have the smaller squares for
Okay.
their floors. He had a unit of intercessors up there, and because of wobbly model syndrome, I could move my models on the edge and assault, and I managed to get an assault with some plague bearers. And so I had my plague bearers stringed on the top level, and they kind of went down the rest of the table, and I was just doing this to tie him up. And then he was taking a sip as I was doing putting them up there meticulously. I'm like, okay, it's all good. Then he puts the beer down, and the ensuing quake knocks 2 plague bears. It was one of the 2 points of battle damage I had all weekend. And then I'm like, well, that's it, Corey. It's -2 sportsmanship now after that and the assassins. And
Nice.
he's like, no, sir, this was regular beer putting down pressure. And it became a whole thing.
Oh, jeez.
This
Yeah.
is proper
yeah,
protocol.
exactly.
No Direction says in the chat, 13, that's rookie numbers. Thirsty can do much more than that. It was 14 at the end.
It was 14 at the end. No Direction
Yeah.
has seen me at the role-playing
He
game
just-
conventions, though.
He
So.
was
Yeah.
just slightly under 5 beers a game.
Yes. You're consuming more than beer.
Well, I
around.
could have gone the extra, but Nurgle's holy number. Once
So, yeah.
once I hit 14, it was kind
So
of
you're almost averaging 1 beer every half hour of gameplay.
Yes.
because I'd usually go and get 2 at a time and then drink
Yeah,
them both
because it's
within the
not
hour.
smart to only get 1. 'cause it'll back half
Absolutely.
twice
Yeah.
as fast.
Efficiency.
Efficiency.
Professor Grant says the Vindicar kept failing too. Clanky asks when you're coming out to Brandon. I'm sure we'll figure that out in a second. But I have more stats, people.
Oh my
Just
God.
wait. Over the course of the day, Thurston scored 2.14 points per beer. He had 2.3 points allowed per beer and 4.6 beers per game. Now, to compare, I'm a player who usually drinks 1 beer per game. I get my nice dark imperial stouts. I sip them for a while. If I had
Chew
to
a little
do-
bit too.
yeah, if I had consumed beers, my usual rate of beers, and performed the way you did and gotten your exact scores, I would have been scoring 10 points per beer and allowing 2 points per beer and having 1 beer per game. So despite the fact that you were still scoring all the way down at 2.14 points per beer instead of the 10 that I would have scored, you still won the event. I went and got comparisons though. I talked to 3 other players.
Oh wow!
Across the board, and got their points results and how many beers they consumed over the course of the
I didn't know
game.
this was coming.
Neither did I. I didn't know any of this was coming.
This is,
Player
It's along for
one.
the ride.
this is some intense math.
Player 1 was 9-11, 9-11, and 3-10. They are 2.75 points per beer, so about half a point per beer above you. However, they were at 3.86 points allowed per beer. So you're allowing like 1 full fewer point per beer than this person. And they had 2.6 beers per game, so about half your rate. Player 2 was 11-1, 3-10, 4-11. So they're closer to you at 2.57 points per beer, 3.14 points allowed, and 2.3 beers a game. And then player 3, I didn't get their. They are at 0.08 points per beer.
Legal drinking.
1 beer and 1 point per game. I didn't get their points against per beer because it was very late in the day.
That's fine.
4 beers per game. Still less than you. So what all of this lets me do, lets me...
Is there going to be a test on this? Oh,
No. Baseball has a fun stat called wins above replacement. The idea is, how well is the average person we can call up from the minors going to do and then you compare your pro level players to that on your team. How much better are they than the average person from the minors? So I created a replacement player from all of these stats so that we can calculate your beers above replacement or bar stats.
Excellent.
We've been going through your beer assisted competition stats today, your
Oh,
BAC,
oh,
but now we're
Lord.
going to do your bar stats. So the replacement
Jesus,
player,
man.
This is
the average
intense.
player at the event was 3.1 beers per game because y'all
Go team.
go hard. They were 3.6 points allowed per beer and had 2.96 beers per game. 3.10 points per beer. 3.6 points allowed per beer, and then 2.96 beers per game. So compared to the replacement player, compared to the average person at the event, you were a full point lower per beer than them at 2.96. You were a full, which is like incredible when you compare to like, I would have been scoring 10 per beer. You were at 2, like holy shit, the amount you drank and still scored.
Well, yeah,
You
you
were-
got rookie numbers, man.
Yeah, the key point for me though is that you were denying a full point per beer more than the average player at the event.
Oh, that's just
You're sitting
Nurgle.
there- Yeah,
That's just
you're a
Nurgle.
strategy. You're a objective. Just board control let you hit that great like -1 points allowed per beer compared to your replacement player, your beers above replacement, and then you were at a full beer and a half, 1.64 beers per game above the average player at the event.
Okay, you want to know the trick to my beer related success?
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
gonna
I've
talk
just
to
thrown
the
a whole
audience
bunch
here.
of numbers out there.
I came up with my game plan 2 months ago on how this whole tournament was gonna go down.
He's been
Yeah.
drinking ever since.
And I built my army, and everyone will attest because I've been shouting it from the rooftops. I wanted an army that I could win in the movement phase and drink for the rest of the game. And mission
Lo and
successful.
behold, here
Absolutely.
I am, king of the castle.
The highest beers consumed that I have for other players was 12. So you beat them on beers, and then like just
You know,
done.
it
Drink.
It's funny because I was out driving today, and I was listening to Chapter Tactics. It was an older episode, but they were talking about like different armies, and Pablo from Chapter Tactics, like I really.
Very seasoned vet, plays a lot of games.
Yeah.
Very
Like,
knowledgeable.
well, this is actually one of his many like flub lines. Like, I really just wish there was a army out there that you could like win in the movement phase and not have to do anything else. And Jeff Robinson just pipes in and is like, "Yeah, it's called Nurgle," and I'm like, "Yes, vindication." Exactly, and I'm like, "Well, I'm glad, like, because I was shouting it. I'm like." This is how my army plays, Bob. Then Jeff Robinson with that beautiful assist there. That was great.
Nice. Yep. So I will give this to you. These are your compiled
my
BAC beer assistant.
Oh, it's going to
competition
Jamie.
Stats.
It's going to Jamie. She'll love this.
Excellent. All right. Clanky asks when you're coming out to Brandon. So I guess we're just gonna have to find out when an event is. Right?
Well, I know that they've got PrairieCon coming up, but sadly, PrairieCon falls on the same weekend as Origins, which is the launch of my big thing for Starfinder. So I'm
Nice.
out there. Maybe this time I'll know about the Wheat City because I did not because this show was on hiatus at the time. I had not heard much about it.
Oh,
so
jeez.
now,
done.
yeah. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I mean, I'm just gonna go there to drink, so someone's gonna have to drive me out to Brandon.
I will drive you.
Yeah.
I fully anticipate actually attending an event that I can play in.
Beautiful.
Nice. Excellent. All right, so that concludes our discussion of Highlander 2019 for well over 100 photos of the event, including all the players, all the armies, all the action. Go to 40 Below Gaming on Facebook. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors for sponsoring that. We're going to list them off at the end of the show because we respect you as our audience. It was a fantastic time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, Adepticon also happened, I'm told. It might have been a thing.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Actually, before we go into this, Scott and I, while setting up on the Friday night, we came up with a new acronym.
Oh.
The acronym's not new, but it is ABS. And that is, it stands for adequate butt space. So that is that is our factor between our tables. If you guys noticed, everyone was. I mean,
Yeah.
For a
there's
guy
few-
like me, it's important.
there's a few guys like who will remain nameless, Noah, that insisted on trying to touch butts, because as I had mentioned in the with the guys I was on their podcast now, the name escapes me. 7-4 Studios is the commission's painting.
Their podcast is Favorite of Chaos.
Favorite of
Thank
Chaos.
you.
Thank you. So I was on there, and we were talking about that, and it's not a true 40K event
Unless
if you
there's
don't-
butt-
unless there's some butt rubbing. So our
I mean, I had one table where there was
and
a
our
butt
philosophy is making sure we have enough ABS, but Noah made sure to get a little butt rubbing in to ensure that it was an official. 40K event.
There was
Yeah.
a bit on one of my tables too, so that's okay. That's okay.
Well, all right. I'm glad.
A little bit.
Okay, so
Not
anyway,
much.
so
We're still
back
going to max
sorry.
out that ABS for the next event.
Yeah, ABS, killing it.
Yeah, Adepticon.
Sorry, Adepticon. Let's go.
We had a Canadian person winning, Jim Vassal from the Canhammer team, with a Chaos Demons list that I thought looked very similar to what Ryan Mandrick took to the Weed City Open a couple months ago.
Yeah.
No, I
And
couldn't
won that
get
with
the.
it. If I
It's a very popular list right now going
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
He didn't. I didn't get the stats page worked up because we're still working behind the scenes.
Okay.
But Thurston, if you could read that off for us.
Well, yeah, sure. So there's a battalion that is all sorts of Nurgle allied. I like it already. Poxbringer with Miasma of Pestilence because -1 to hit's great. Sloppity Bilepiper because you're going to be sloppitying and keeping demons on the table. 3 Nurglings because you need 3 troop choices. 2 units of 30 Plague Bearers with Icon and Instrument. Huh, where have I seen this before? Then there is a second battalion, which is Undivided Chaos, which is a Changecaster, Flickering Flames, and Gaze of Fate. Demon Prince Chaos with an axe. This is one of the corn ones that kills Knights Dead.
Yeah, okay.
Troops with 15 Bloodletters and an Icon and a Banner of Blood, so they're a Deep Strike Murder unit. 25 Pink Horrors, probably just add some shooting. 10 Brimstones, because once again, you gotta fill out those troop choices. And then a Supreme Command detachment, which has Ahriman, because Ahriman. Demon Prince Zeech. Oh, look, there's Warp Time. There it is. Another Demon Prince Zeech. Sorcerer and Terminator armor. A Hellforged Contemptor Dreadnought. That's a little spicy there. I like that. And a grand total of 5 reinforcement points.
Interesting. So, seasoned Chaos player, someone who's looked at Chaos before, what is your guys' reaction to that list? How would you play it? How would you fight against it?
Cry.
it's actually hilarious that Armand's now this big go-to.
Yes.
Because I remember when I was playing Chaos back in I was like 4th. What was that?
what-
Armand was just a joke.
Well, what surprises me here is, like, you can see that the Supreme Command detachment's really the big thing to look out for, because that's gonna be giving a lot of that psychic oomph to the army. That's where so many of these psychers are. Not that there aren't psychers in the other detachments, but like,
That's where all the gimmicks sit.
well, but having Ahriman, like warp timing any of these units can be real important to winning a game. I mean, the Demon Princes are all going to hide behind the 60 Plague Bearers on the table, and that's going to screen them long enough to get where they need to go. Again, that Demon Prince I mentioned in the 2nd Battalion, the axe, that's basically there to murder knights.
Basically, it just keeps advancing behind the wall until it gets to where it needs to go, and then the wall moves.
Or he deep strikes, and you just use your stuff to clear the wall, and then drop. Because you 9 inches, getting a 9-inch bubble around a knight, if you can clear out a screen, it's pretty easy to sneak something in and just go. It gives it a lot of options, is regardless. The smaller bloodletter, I wouldn't call it a bomb, more like the bloodletter firecracker there, 15 is it.
Bloodletter flare, bloodletter grenade.
But generally, a bomb of 30 is really impressive, but it's also a lot of the times you're not going to get all the bodies in depending how they've deployed. There's a lot of ways to mitigate that, whereas all the bloodletter bomb is really doing is running in from a deep strike generally, because those probably aren't sitting on the table because they'll get shut off in 2 seconds.
What they do is, if you have a big screen in front of something you want to get to, that blob deep strikes down, charges the wall from a different side, which means they all have to pile in and move away from where they are, right? So that's clearing a path, stuff like that.
It's got a lot of good things, I think, especially for the Adepticon style missions, because the Adepticon missions are a bit weird in that they oscillate between progressives and end of game, and so this can do both pretty well. The only thing that I would generally be worried about with a list going into Adepticon is they're pretty renowned for lol terrain. What's that? This has 60 Plague Bearers that are gonna
bring your own terrain.
Well, but and this weekend I think I lost one of my Plague Bearer units the entire weekend in 1500, and in a 2,000 point game you're gonna have way more firepower that can go into them, but even then you only need the Plague Bearers to work for 1 or 2 turns. And then all these Demon Princes are going to be in their face. It's pretty interesting. And it also depends, too, the reinforcement points here, 5 points. Okay, there's nothing really coming from that. So he's not summoning any of this stuff, which has been another gimmick we've been seeing going around lately. So,
if you guys want to check out this list, it's on battlereport.com. That's battle-report.com. Their post about the Adepticon 2019 has all of the top lists. I think it went to 30 or something. Fabio, how would you fight a list like this, either as Necrons or as another faction?
As Necrons, I don't think I wouldn't be seeing against him because I would never be at the top table.
You might get him first round.
I get first round. Yeah.
First round, you're facing this. What do you?
Yeah, what do you do? Cry? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You just kind of, man, I don't even know. You have to clear the screens. I like running wraiths, so I have ways to get, if he's deployed right on the line, I can get squads of wraiths in first turn. But the problem is,
he'll smite you off.
They just smite me. There's no drawback to falling back out of combat. So trying to play that close combat and lock yourself in so that they can't get you. I know there's ways to lock in combat, but Wraith there's only 6. Yeah. It's not a squad that can wrap around a million things that easily. It just doesn't work that way. So
that's fair.
And without there's no drawback to walking out of combat. So yeah, I would shoot the crap out of as much as I can. I mean whatever I can see, whatever it's pretty much just try and melt the screens, and maybe not even go head first turn. Maybe back up. Yeah. Get maybe a second turn, just try and shoot as much as I can, and then see what avenues open up, and then try and jump in at that point. But it's no different than when I had to play Thurston. It basically comes to one point in the game where it's you push in all your chips, and either it's gonna work, and the return fire you'll be able to suppress it enough to keep going, or you're gonna go for it and it's gonna fail miserably, and you're just gonna get whomped. And that's what I see here. And there was a guy that actually was streaming this game for people on Facebook because Adepticon didn't stream it. The push back and forth from the two guys was actually pretty neat to see, because both lists kind of had a little bit of everything in terms of the punch, the defensive lines, and there was a lot of like there wasn't a lot of big moves off the start. It was a very cagey match to wait for an opening, and it was I was watching during work, so I was kind of skipping through, but like from what I did watch and what I was able to listen and stuff, it was an interesting game, and it's too bad it wasn't streamed, but
we'll get there.
Okay,
we'll get there.
Okay.
Bizarre 40K Beast, our friend out in Kelowna, is actually going to be playing Jim at the next 2 events he'll be at. So he's hoping to play with his orcs. Good luck to you, bud. We're excited to see you at Plains of War. Speaking of which, slight plug until we get to the Plains of War stuff later in the show. We now have a hotel code. If you go and you book your rooms to the Holiday Inn Airport here in Winnipeg for Plains of War, and you give Plains of War as a hotel code, you will receive a very, very sizable discount.
Somewhere between 25 and 30%.
Yeah, somewhere between 25 and 30%. So make sure you do that. Tickets are on sale now at 40belowgaming.com in the shop. We're really pushing to make this our first major. It's going to be incredible to see everybody out there. More plugs later in the show. Now, Adepticon still, one of the things I want to talk about, the top 8 was a lot more diverse than I expected. In order, the placement in top 8 was Daemons first, then Genestealer cults, with a double Genestealer cult detachment, like no actual pure Tyranid detachment there.
Okay.
So Demons, Genestealer cults, Orcs, Aser Yani, Yanari, Adeptus, Astronaut with like a Tempestus Scions list. Then Ultramarines, almost pure Ultramarines coming in 7th, and a second Orcs player is bringing in 8th. Like, what's your reactions to seeing that diverse of a meta? Is it just an Adepticon thing, or is it like why is that?
It has to do with how their missions work. It has to do with the terrain. It also has to do with something that a lot of people forget about Adepticon is that it is not a win-loss tournament. It is a battle point tournament. What happens, and this actually came up this Adepticon, I was just listening to some discussions on this. There were players who went 4-0. And how Adepticon works is they run a champions tournament on the first day.
Friday.
Thursday.
Thursday,
on the
and it's
Thursday.
4 games, right?
It's 4 games. And
so it's a long ass day. It's like 9 or 10 a.m. till like 8
9
or 10
yeah.
p.m.
It's a full day of 40K, and it's 4 games, and it's based on your battle points. And how they do battle points at Adepticon is also different from a lot of other tournaments. Their battle points are calculated based on a differential.
Right.
So based on how many points you scored over your opponent during the game, that then determines what your score is.
Okay.
And so you need your opponent to not get any points. You need to get all the points.
It is equally as important for you to get a lot as it is for you to deny them.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it creates some strange environments where what happened at this Adepticon, at least from what I heard from 2 or 3 players, was there were several players at the end of it. And how it works is on the first day there's like this 270 something person tournament, and then they take the top 16 for a single elimination on the following day.
So everyone else is like, thanks for coming. One day.
Yeah.
And it's a Thursday.
And it's a Thursday, and then it's like crazy. A Friday. Yeah. But Adepticon is a different event, though. It is not the LVO style tournament. It is a convention first. And so the people who end up going to the finals, however, they have to get the points. And what happened this year, as I was trying to say, is there were players who won all 4 games.
4-0 their first day.
Did not go to the next day, but there were people who 3-1 and went to the next day.
Just because of how big of their point,
differential
point spread were in those 3 games they did win.
Yeah, so it is very much a more open spread when you hit that second day.
So if you look at those 10 lists, I suspect they are very horde oriented.
Okay.
Versus elite armies. You don't see knights. You don't see anything with low model counts.
There's one Castellan, I think, that made it into the last day for them. which is
Castellan?
one Castellan list. Yeah.
Was that the guard list? So the bodies were there.
But I mean the thing to keep in mind too that's interesting is you look at some of the names in the list of the final players. I mean, Nick Nanavati made it, and Nick Nanavati's been like the brown golden child for a while. He got taken out on a mirror match against Orcs. He's not even in the top 8 because he wasn't in these lists. So he was one of the top 16, but he just got bumped down right away.
Knocked out in the first round.
So it's like
It's the environment.
it's an entirely different environment. And you know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I like seeing this type of stuff. I like
That's
that.
entirely fair.
I like that different events do things differently. I like that not every tournament is using ITC champs missions. I mean, look at what comes up next, because I think next up the big thing is going to be Nova, and Nova has another completely. Though they're getting closer to ITC, they're still their own thing. So I like seeing that we're getting some, and people tech differently too, which is good.
Yeah. I think the teching differently is kind of a. It's nice to see, but it's also funny because you will see people that try and copy a list that went to Nova.
Yep.
And bring it to something, not actually, but for lack of it, just for an example, to the LVO. And it's like, they're not the same.
No.
You can't do that and expect to just because you have those models do as well. And it's kind of fun. That I find it rather humorous because it just kind of shows that there's a lot of people that don't,
Goes back to our talk on Highlander too. Sure. It's like, being able to read the missions before you go to an event and plan for what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like I said, like two months ago, I knew I was like, I want to run an objective, sit on them a whole game, see if I can get taken off and drink. But like in a competitive environment, you want to read those missions and go, what do I do when I'm playing this mission? Okay, what do I do when I'm playing this mission and I'm put up against... And like high-end players, that's what they do. They play out those matches.
Actually, it's funny. John suckered me into going to a one-day tournament on Saturday in Fargo. So we're gonna drive down, and that's what I'm gonna be doing all the way down there.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make myself a cheat sheet.
Yep.
So there's things I always forget or it slows down my game. So I'm gonna do that, and then all I'm gonna do is they say the missions are like 2, 4, and 6 or something. I think.
Yeah.
So guess I'm going to be reading
Learning
those missions inside and out and figuring out what I am going to do against certain armies.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like it's like I was actually Christian Gerling and I had a good talk after our last game and at Highlander, and I told him, I was like, man, like understanding the mission, deployment, and like your first turn are so crucial. You can even take out first turn. Deployment and understanding the missions are so important. Like, you can lose so many games before they even start just because you misread or didn't take the time to read the missions beforehand, and then you did it while you're under the gun of a 2.5, 3 hour game. Yeah. It's a big thing, and people, I think, even picking like deployment sides and stuff like that too. Like all that stuff is so important. And people just overlook it and think it's just like the secondary thing.
Well, I'm on this side of the table, so I'll deploy here. And it's like, I'm a big lazy guy who likes doing that in fun games, but at a tournament, there are definitely a few times where I'm like, no. Like when I played Homer's Knights at Highlander, there's a big hill in the middle of the table that can block a whole squad of plague bearers. I want that side.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people, hang on. Professor Grand, actually. Placing objectives. Yeah. That's another big one. Like, if your army advances, you don't want to be throwing a bunch of objectives in your deployment zone or in any deployment zone because you don't know what side you're going to be on. But you want to put them in places where you're going to advance into them.
Every game, when it came down to those ones where it was like, if they're in your enemy's deployment zone, I made sure every objective was strung out in a line in the middle. So, none of my games were their objectives in our deployment zones. Because we made sure that, nope, we're going to have a game in the middle. Because that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And, my opponents would kind of, see that and see what I was doing and realize, but if I put something in a deployment zone and I don't get that deployment zone, what do you do,
then
right?
You're handing the other person a free point.
Or
just
more.
It's a point that's just not getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
No one's getting it. Yeah.
So, going to move things along a little quick because it's already 8:45.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've been
like-
chatting for a
I was
while.
like,
It's like we talk nerd stuff all the time.
I was like, babe, we're gonna be an hour and a half again. Don't even sweat it. No, whatever, it's all good.
That's all good.
So let's keep moving.
So,
Yeah, sure. What's
yeah,
next?
what are your predictions for the big FAQ?
Ooh.
I know, or at least I'm like 99% sure from some people I know who know. So, but like Castellan, like
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kilwutton?
the Castellan
Is
Knight
gonna
is
go
going to
up
go
in
up in
points.
points, and they're going to FAQ it so that it can't get the 3++. That's what the rumors are saying. So it can only max out at a 4++.
I would. I'd be okay with that. I mean, I don't.
I think it needs to disappear because of what it is doing to the game. Because what it is doing to the game right now is making it so people do not take entire swaths of their collection. And from like a game standpoint, that's bad. Like no one is taking like predators or tanks anymore because
they just
Castellan bop gone.
But it's not even just like it used to be. One unit shoots at all its weapons at one unit. This thing is firing 5 or 6 different weapon platforms at 5 or 6 different.
And I snipe out that character, and I murder this character of yours, and then I fire all my guns into this. Yeah, it's
pretty crazy.
It is it's problematic for the health of the game, just because. Well, you want to see Carter counters. You don't want to see something that's basically telling someone you can't take like a huge chunk of what you do.
Professor Grant says, yes, please, so I can play my monsters again. I am there with you. I would love to play something other than a Hive Tyrant as a Tyranid. I have been collecting Tyrannifexes. I have Trigons. I need a Toxicrane I want to build. All of my lovely, lovely little darling creatures need to hit the tabletop.
Waiting for the coast to be clear, and now they're going to...
I will also take a wager that we will see nothing to do with Yunari, because as has been spoiled, next month's White Dwarf is going to have an index Yunari, and it seems really interesting that one of the top Yunari players in North America after Adepticon sold his Yunari army. Wonder where that'll go.
We will find out.
Yeah.
Bizarre 40k Beast in the chat. Orcs laugh at Castle and so let them run wild, all good. Professor Grant says, this month, yeah, you're right, it is April 1st. By the way, yeah, we didn't trick you for April 1st.
This month.
We want you to trust us. We trust you. We're here for you.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we don't trust you.
Oh god.
Balance.
What have I gotten us into?
Are we gonna talk like really quickly about releases?
We can talk.
Releases at
so
Adepticon.
The big two releases that we saw at Adepticon were Apocalypse and Warcry. Like, and there's other stuff that I don't care about, but I'm making these two people talk about Apocalypse and Warcry. So.
Carry on. No, keep
going.
No,
that's my prelude. Reactions to Apocalypse. Let's start with that.
Well, we talked before a little bit. I didn't delve into the Apocalypse. It was not at the forefront of my interest.
Okay.
But Thurston did.
I read the paragraph you deigned not to
I
read.
didn't read that paragraph.
It looks like it's going to be like a book box set that they're coming out with.
Okay.
That is, it looks like, and they mention it in the paragraph, will include movement trays.
Oh yes, the movement trays.
So
yes.
we'll see what that is. I mean, that's definitely an area they've avoided, but now they're
They
doing.
decided to talk. They've seen Northern Lights.
Yeah, they're coming.
Right.
And all the movement trays that they're pumping out for everyone to help their models move. So now,
shout out to our sponsor, Northern Lights Terrain. I use
Byron.
them for my
Honestly,
knits. They're so great.
I wouldn't be surprised because they did. I think I did see something about them. Like there's going to be bigger formations and
The
stuff.
game
like
is
that.
going to be formation based, so
Everything comes into formation?
and you won't even roll for individual like models and stuff. It will just be the formation. That was what they made it sound
So then
like.
I wouldn't be surprised if these movement trays are basically like you need to fill this tray with X and you get Y or something to.
Yeah,
or
these are your new
that.
or
units.
this formation deploys in like the big size tray or whatever they do,
Yeah.
which will be
With a
interesting.
flying V tray.
Yeah, I will need to see more. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely
That's
need
fair.
to. It was a very like, I don't know. They showed us a book, they gave us a paragraph. They said movement trays, but nowhere I could see in that picture were there movement trays.
Yeah.
So
They were. I saw some very subtle, like super slim around the bases. Trays,
yeah,
like maybe 2 millimeters thick.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Alright.
Slanesh doesn't
There we
matter.
go.
Slanesh doesn't
Friend,
matter,
sorry.
Josh. Don't worry.
Slanesh does matter.
Yeah, I was good. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry.
Just
So
right out of the
let's
chat.
go. Let's stick on your points though. What was the second one? Warcry.
Warcry. It was announced, among other things, they did a preview of Iron Golems, which is a Warcry band, one of the Chaos War bands, but there's going to be 9 other factions outside of Chaos.
My faction ready.
that'll
It's
be
actually
released.
behind Thurston.
Nice. Yep. No Stormcast Eternals. You can see on the shelf there. They're going to be part of Warcry's rules when it's releases, which excites me because the Chaos War bands weren't pulling me in, but I love skirmish gameplay.
Yep.
So, like, I'm going through AOS now being like, okay, Night Haunts, what do they play like? Stormcast, what do they play like? Things like that. What are your reactions to that?
I think it's great, and we touched on a lot of points that kind of come back to this. One being, right now we have big events, but we need stuff to kind of get new people in and something that's easier and more inviting.
Mm-hmm.
And Kill Team has done an exceptional job of that for 40K.
Mm-hmm.
So on that same kind of philosophy, I hope Warcry will do something similar for the Age of Sigmar community. It's nice. It's cheap. If as long as they keep it cheap to enter, that's great. But otherwise, it's an opportunity for people that new or vets to maybe pick up something that they wouldn't normally play because it's something in a smaller capacity. Like,
Yes.
I did the same for Kill Team. I picked up a squad of Rubik Marines, which I would never play in 40K right now. I just have no desire to play them. I hate painting them.
Yeah.
But it's 5 guys. Like, it's easy,
There
right?
you go.
That in the book, $100, done. Psh, I'm in the game. So for Age of Sigmar, if Warcry can do the same thing, I mean, there's a few armies I'd love to. Yeah, fingers crossed, right? There's a few things that I would definitely like to pick up a box of, like Gobos or what are those little things? The bouncy ball guy, squigs. Fuck, I love those squigs.
Yeah.
So if I
Looks
could
like they're getting a box too, kind of tangentially related. Looks like they had a quick little teaser trailer, but they're really hinting that there's going to be a Sylvaneth versus Goblins starter box. So
Nice.
hallelujah.
Yeah.
So I think I personally I have high hopes for it.
Nice.
That's where I'm gonna stay.
Similar state. I for one look forward to our new Chaos Overlords and the what is it, like 6 warbands that they said were going to be
6
like the
Chaos.
core Chaos warbands. All I'm saying is if one of them is Nurgle or maybe another Chaos God, which I might be devoting myself to soon, all in.
Yeah.
All in.
Professor Grant says still no Seraphon. I'm kind of with you on that. The lizard people look cool.
But there was ones that looked like Chaos Dwarves though, so
Yeah.
be afraid, my man.
And
there was a Chaos Dwarf in the Iron Golem warband. Like they had like a dwarf
Yeah.
model.
I have my nice Turok just chilling there, no big deal.
Nice.
To maybe soothe that sting a little bit though, a Seraphon player was at the AOS Champs game for the finals at Adepticon.
Excellent.
I don't know how they did because I was tuned in for all of like 10 minutes, but I sure did see that the finals were Seraphon versus Daughters of Cain.
Was that one streamed?
I was GW streamed that on the last day. Yeah.
So can we go back to Adepticon for a
Yes,
second here?
yes. We skipped over this.
Yo, like some guy on a cell phone had to bleep myself there for a second. Is live streaming the 40K finals.
Yep.
And Adepticon just didn't stream it. GW didn't want to stream it.
I have conspiracy theories about all of this.
Honestly, my assumption on that was simply all the negativity that's kind of been happening. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I felt like that was something that they're like, we don't want to have to deal with this, so we're just gonna just not do it. And I was kind of like, that's the wrong way to go about this. Like, you have knowledgeable people there. You should have a judge or two at the table, and not to oversee and coach, but if something looks out of line, you can nip it in the butt right there live, and it shows that it's not tolerated. It can be fixed, and and more positive can come from it. Hiding it in the shadows, like just like putting a blanket over it or digging your head in the sand and pretending it doesn't exist.
To me.
It was just insane.
I have one quick comment, and then I'm going to throw it to Thurston.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear about something like this, like Adepticon or the LVO streams, I actively have to stop myself from going to you and saying, how much would it cost for us to pitch our streaming services, just be traveling mercenary Warhammer streamers, fly out to the events, produce them, and go out? I'm going to pitch you after the podcast. Hit me.
Well, so, see, it's funny because there is actually someone who's already started doing that.
Honest Wargamer, right?
Yeah, review. And Rob Symes is being brought out to like a ton of like he's getting flown out to a Canadian event later this
Yeah,
year.
Canhammer. I think it is. Canhammer?
Blood and Glory in like BC is flying him out. Like, yeah, there's like, but the request for the service is there, and what gets me like what Fabio said is entirely true, which is this like situation where I think they want to avoid the drama. Now, admittedly, when they did the LVO, there were a lot of people who were upset. It's like, well, why aren't you covering the AOS champs at the LVO too? Like, why can't there be 2 streams? Da, da, da. Now, the one thing I think that Games Workshop hasn't figured out its footing on yet is there's these things called laws, and like having Jeff and Frankie, who are their streamers for 40K, do 4 games of 40K in a day. And then, surprise, surprise, you get to sleep for like 6 hours, and then you get to do 3 or 4 more the next day. Well, 4 more the next day for the finals. Like, you need to have different people who can come in and do this. And I think right now they're really running into a weird situation of manpower, because the way they handled it this year was they had Jeff and Frankie do the 40K commentary, which they're very knowledgeable on, but then they had like Martin, who I think is their community video guy, and I forget the other one who was there, do the AOS stuff, and they're okay at it, I guess. Like, I didn't find the commentary particularly riveting on the AOS side, but it's like, okay, maybe you need to look at the AOS side and find some people who are like same level, really die hard, and maybe you find more than 2 of them if you can.
But it's always the same guys. Like, I mean, no disrespect to either Frankie or Jeff, because like, I follow Jeff when he plays the StarCraft.
Absolutely,
he's always on the StarCraft streams, and I have those in the background when I'm working. And I'm so out of tune with StarCraft, but he's a great commentator. And Frankie, I've had the opportunity to meet him a few times, and he's a great guy too. He is very knowledgeable. Like, he's a great general. He's just a good guy to shoot the shit with.
Yeah.
But like, they need breaks. I agree.
Yeah.
But they
also
let some other people in there. Like, get some other faces. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of great guys that are on podcasts and videocasts all over the States, all over there's and just get some new people there. Get some fresh perspectives. Maybe ones that aren't so, like, maybe tunnel visioned a certain way because that's the way they've been. Well, Frankie, I mean, it's his frontline's a business. Yeah. I mean, he's got a I believe a vision, and that's the way he portrays everything. Get some people that are off that track. Get some fresh ideas, and I think that'd be nice.
And I think it comes down to avoiding that drama was what they were aiming to do this year. And I will be curious to see how that plays out for other events.
That is not how you.
No, it is not. I'm not at all saying that is correct.
I know.
But I'm saying that is the and because there was no commentary on aside from the boilerplate line of, well, we just wanted to vary it up this year and give you the AOS coverage. It's like, okay, but like, you could have done this differently. So it's very clear that like you did not want to stream those finals. So give us a reason. Like, otherwise, people are just gonna like bandy back and forth like we're doing right now. Like, what was it?
Get our own reason. Yeah.
Shine a light.
Yep.
So I'll get your reactions to the Slaanesh models, and then we'll hit up Planes of War real quick.
Yeah.
Unless you had more to add.
Nope.
Okay.
Let's go.
Cool.
Let's go.
So the other important announcement was we're getting some new Slaanesh models. They look real good.
They do.
Real good.
I considered Slaanesh as soon as I saw that Keeper of Secrets model. That's just so elegant. I've already sold out once this year, though, to Custodes, so I'm not going to do it twice. But, like, you're jumping in, right?
Yeah. Well, I'd been debating doing this army for a while anyways. I'd been kind of like, okay, maybe if they actually do something with it. And then when they announced it, I was like, like...
They're doing something with it.
They're doing something with it. Sweet. The model that did it for me was one of the endless... at least what I will assume is an endless spell, which is the, like, giant demonette head that's opening up its mouth and has these... this cut tongue that's like going out in like 12 different directions, and each of the ends of the tongue ended like these wicked barbs. And I'm like, they finally got an aesthetic right for Slanesh. I feel
Yes.
here because
Yeah.
Slanesh they've always had this problem of let's like get ourselves like the goddamn titties and like
they
some
sex it up too
dongs and
much.
la 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 la. But they really seem to be batting home the whole like Hellraiser aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like the like knives and that sort of like androgynous beauty, but like, oh, I'm gonna cut you. That just like all of that sings to me. Now their rules right now are garbage, and I have been trying to come up with lists based on the current rules, and oh boy, is that like not happening. But the fact that they're all look like demon models that they previewed, like they showed several new characters. They showed a terrain piece which has been like lovingly hidden from people, but there's a big old terrain piece that's going to go with the army, which is becoming more and more the standard.
Yeah. Everyone has their terrain.
Like all of that kind of has me super interested, and as long as they give them a way to deal with flyers, all in.
Yep.
All in.
Homer Sayer in the chat says boobs, which
Yep.
Thanks, Homer. Appreciate that.
Thanks again for the game, man.
Bizarre 40k Beast says Slanesh display boards are going to be bonkers this coming year. You should have been at Highland.
I was just
thinking, yeah.
Your good friend and mine, Jonathan Plouffe, showed up with a Slanesh army.
Emperor's Children.
Emperor's Children army. Literally, the display board was a mirror, and he had some lines of what I hope wasn't cocaine on the mirror. He had some condom wrappers. There was
Some
crack
razors.
stuck into the thing. Razors here and
Oh
there.
god, that was a great display
That was
board.
hilarious.
Did we get a photo of that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It is there.
40 Below Gaming on
Oh,
Facebook. Go to the photo for that,
that
because
was
that was
so
glorious.
good. That was
Glorious.
That was really funny. That
It was great.
Super risky.
But
It was
like
funny.
one final thing on that, because we know nothing about it except for the multiple, and they're getting an AOS book, which
Yes.
I assume will translate to 40k. Like they've been very much of the,
Yeah.
are we releasing a new demon model? Let's make sure 40k rules get it, and we saw that with the Wrath and
Yes.
Rage stuff and all that. All I'm gonna say is that I don't know what it is in Winnipeg, but apparently everyone has like a box or 8 in their basement. Because I put up on the buy and sell, like, hey, I'm looking for some Slanesh stuff, like preferably new on sprue. And I've had like 6 messages today. I'm kind of scared to pull up my phone again, see if I have more people being like, I have a ton of Slanesh stuff on sprue. Which if you do, please message me on Facebook. That's cool.
Yo, you can't do that on ours.
But yeah, hey, I sure am. But it's like, yeah, I've got like a whole damn army already coming to me, and that's crazy. So
I bet you I have some demon models, Slanesh demon models sitting in.
see,
evidence.
everyone, yeah.
If you got some custodian stuff in your closet,
Yo!
yes, bro, hit me up. No. Okay.
Just kidding.
We tried.
We do our best.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing
Planes
our
of
best,
War.
Planes of War is coming up June 1st and 2nd. Holiday Inn Airport in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's a major. We're counting for 58 players. We hope you hit our max of 60. There is a hotel code, Planes of War. If you book it, you will get a sizable discount, 30% off. We got a contest going. Like us and follow us on a whole bunch of everything you can find us on, and you'll get.
No, it's let's just take a step
I was on a roll
back.
there.
He wasn't a roll.
There's the follow us on Facebook. That enters you for one coupon code that is 25% off.
Okay.
And then the second one is, not like us on Facebook. Write a review on our Facebook page.
Okay.
The second one is like and follow us on the Twitter. No, the Twitch. This one, the one that we're on right now, Twitch.
Yes, twitch.tv/40below gaming. Don't know why I'm telling you this. You typed it in to get here.
And that one is another 25% off. And then once those are announced on I believe it's next week, if I'm not mistaken, then there will be 2 more happening.
Nice.
They also might be social media platforms.
Perfect.
Who knows? But anyway, so if you've already paid for a ticket, you will just get reimbursed a percentage.
Interesting.
So it's not like, it's still open. It's anyone's game at this point. And if you've already put a review in, you're already in. It's very
Excellent.
simple.
Awesome.
I can talk a little bit of our streaming plans for the event. Casting no shade, we are planning on streaming every game. The first game, as per our usual for our ITC events, is going to be games that we manually select. So games that we think are going to be good matchups, good sportsmen on camera, good models, people who know their rules. We want to feature as much of the variety of the Winnipeg scene as we can on day 1. But as always, day 2 is top tables for both games. Are there 2 or 3 games?
Three. There's 6 games this year.
6 games this year.
6 games,
So
3 hours each.
all 3 games on day 2 are going to be top tables. So you are going to see the best generalship, if I can use that word, Winnipeg is going to offer. We are going to have our fine host or stream host, Thurston, the Mighty Hillman, taking us to and from the matches on stream. We will have a stream judge, Logan Antonation. If you've been to our events here, you know him, you love him. He was at our Otta costume last year for Twin Eagles. He is going to be strictly assigned to the stream to follow what's happening. The players can even request an instant replay from the stream of what's happening. If you want a sample of the kind of stuff that we can stream, go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/40belowgaming. Check out the Wheat City Open playlist. We have all of our videos from Wheat City Open there, which we evolved sort of over the course of the event, but especially games 4 and 5 on the second day really show off the kind of coverage you can expect with player cams. We're going to have objective markers that are adaptable on the overlay, so we'll indicate with the markers who controls which. You'll be able to see that from the stream. Yeah, it's going to be a great time, I think. I'm excited.
Oh yeah,
I think there's been a lot of work put into that by Josh and Scott, and there's been a lot of feedback from players and whoever's been watching the stream. So I think we've collaborated enough, and I mean it's always evolving, so I shouldn't say enough, but we've got it to a point now where it's A, crystal clear, B, it's still legible, like you can see everything very well, you know what's going on, you know what mission's happening, you know how many points people have, you know how many CP, like things that, you know, sometimes you find yourself asking questions because you may have looked away, or you may have, you know, there's no mics in the right spot, so you didn't pick up what the player was saying, or stuff like that. So we've really tried to keep less guessing, so you actually feel like you're standing over the game and actually being able to see what's happening. So we've done a really good job with that, and I'm actually really excited to see how it looks.
Definitely. Now, Thurston, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
You have 2 months again. What are you going to do for Plains of War?
Well, since I'll be like talking, well, it's interesting because right now is the hell month of work, as I like to call it. It's convention-ness, which means I am not leaving the house. So kind of Highlander was my last big hurrah of, hey, I'm gonna take a break. However, I have been finding that my work has been doing really good if I take some regular breaks and do some modeling in the basement, some hobby stuff. Yeah. So going back to Slanesh, I'm gonna try. I'm aiming. No promises yet, but I'm aiming if I can hit maybe because what's the date on Highlander? Shameless plug. Reminder of the date.
This one coming right next.
Or sorry, Plains of War. Sorry, Plains of War.
Is June 1st, 2nd.
June 1st, 2nd. So I mean, I might have 750 points of Slanesh maybe happening. Depends on some things. That's going to be my kind of hobby goals right now.
Cool. Excellent.
Since I'll be, actually, talking and doing stuff at this event.
Josh.
Yes. Josh Baran in the chat asks, I know this is a bit of off topic, but what are your opinions on the Warhammer version of Alexa that got teases today?
So first off, there's no such thing as off topic. We always interacting with our stream chats.
I print these, but...
Yeah, we have a list of things that we want to try and cover, but if you guys have questions, if you guys want to talk about other stuff, we are always game to chat with you guys.
What question did you ask, Fabio? What question do you always ask?
My first question, whenever actually Games Workshop community posts anything new, is especially the teasers are always like,
it's coming now.
What could this be? And I'm like, the 40k version of Azure, by any chance, for mobile, and to which they say, we have an online one that is literally just battle points or.
Hey, Games Workshop, after a major tournament that happened, on the past weekend, and there was a player who, self-disqualified themselves because their list was submitted incorrectly, maybe that's a good cue that you should make a list builder that works. Okay, cool, yeah.
Well, we got there.
Hey,
got there.
That's
what it took. Thank you, Josh.
Social contract. We're being upfront here. We're not hiding anything.
Yeah. So... yeah, that's always my first question, and sure enough, when this Alexa thing came up, I punched in that same question.
What did Duncan say back to you?
Nothing. Alexa broke.
How perfect! 10 out of 10.
That's almost as bad as the real Alexa's
So-
not responding if they're CIA plants. Oh dear.
I am yet again left in the dark with no answer as to when the 40k army list builder that they have
Just-
promised us for over 2 years ago now.
Just a flotation device with battle scribe written on the sides, and pray it doesn't have leaks, like I found out.
How much heresy is too much? I don't even know. Ask Alexa. Or wait. Honestly, at first I thought the thing was an April Fool's joke.
It is.
What? No, like
It is.
right. I know, but I mean, like I didn't think it would reply to anybody. Like I thought it was just like I thought it was.
Oh,
just
they're
like
just
a
trolling
dud.
you out.
Like a fun video,
Right, like-
no interaction.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, well, here we go. Well, let's plug it in. And I didn't get anything. I'm like, oh, shocking. But then, yeah, like some people got responses, and I was just like, what?
They
And
have
then-
blocked your
Yeah,
IP
they've
and
blocked-
everything. Yep.
Professor
I mean-
Grant says, how much heresy is too much is what you asked. What was the response? And Clanky304 asks, when are the back wraps coming out? So, very quickly at Highlighter, we recorded a bunch of raw material for a bunch of games. I'm looking through it now. I'm going to be turning out around some kind of back wrap sometime soon. Stay tuned here at the Dusty Auspex podcast, because when those videos come out, they will be launched here before they go on our YouTube page. We will keep you posted. The answer was none, Professor Grant. That's... Yeah, I mean, I guess from the Imperial's perspective, that's
Gotta
that
push
makes
that,
sense.
Yeah, imperial perspective.
I would have asked, so how many arms does the Emperor have? Because I'm all about the 4-armed Emperor. Yes,
Yeah, 4.
4. Thank you. I appreciate this kind of respect.
The
and
amount of
recognition.
heresy though is going to go way up once I start playing
Wait,
Slanesh.
oh, they didn't answer
Yeah.
that. Yeah. All right, that's
Way
fair.
up.
Okay, so. Any last second rules changes or reminders we need to toss to people about Planes of War before we wrap the show
Planes of
for the
War,
evening?
no, the official schedule is going to be out probably by the end of this week.
Okay.
But yeah, don't forget about the hotel code
Yes.
to get the discount to get our room rate. Get your tickets sooner than later, because we have to. There's a lot of stuff we have to get put in place, and having an idea as far as numbers is really important.
Especially when it comes to
Absolutely.
terrain.
Terrain.
People who like to go, I'm not seeing a lot of new terrain this year. Well, maybe if you pre-regged, and that way we could spend all that money on terrain.
Not even spend it, but like just know that it's going to
There.
be needed.
Yeah,
Like I have
absolutely.
bins of stuff ready to get painted and primed
You
and
can
painted.
see
You
bins
can see it
stacked
over
up.
there.
Yeah.
So like it like especially in the summer is the big time they do a
Get
lot
it
of
done,
that
yeah.
because obviously the weather and yeah. So
We got like a whole month this year. Look at
I
that.
don't know, it's crazy. Shut up, Bruce. What else?
I am done
Other-
running
other than-
tournaments.
no, Plains of War is just June 1st, 2nd. Like, it should be good. It's going to be a marathon. It's the first time we're doing it, like, going this big. It'll be the first in Manitoba. So we are really excited. We honestly, I still remember when we first started. We were like, we want this thing to be 80 players right off the get-go. And then we're like, whoa, let's dial this back.
I was at work and Fabio called to me and was like, we're doing it. Here's all the things we're doing. I remember. That was
Yeah, that was pretty messed up. But then, but otherwise, yeah, we got Bunker Busters happening this month. Yeah, no, well, no, we're April, yeah. So
Yep.
we have one this month. I think it's the 18th or something, 15th or 18th or something like that.
Well,
anyway,
research is
and
ongoing.
it's on the Facebook page
This
and
is
it's on the website.
40K.
That one's 40K, and it's going to be ITC missions 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Then May is ITC missions 4, 5, 6.
For 40K.
Naturally, 40K
Yeah, and
leading
then
up to
AOS in June.
Plains of War. Then June we have AOS, which we're probably going to dial back to probably like 1,000 points.
I thought it was
And-
still 2K.
Oh no, you're right, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of players already into it, so they hey Yuri, what's going on?
Same weekend as PrairieCon and Origins, so I can't attend.
That's PerryCon weekend.
Yeah, the AOS one. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I posted this in the chat. Like,
Oh,
as
you
soon as-
so
yeah,
did.
I did.
I've never seen that.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh shit. All right. Anyway,
We'll figure something out.
I'll
Yeah.
figure something out later. And then then we're gonna go into other 40K and Age of Sigmar bunker busters throughout the rest of the year, but we don't
Yep.
have all our ITC stuff's kind of done for the year. So while we might maybe throw one more in there sporadically, the rest we're gonna try and change up and see what happens. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so we're
Um,
gonna kind of surf the World Wide Web for other ideas and
Definitely.
see what we can bring.
Sweet.
Before I forget, Echoes of Eternally...
Dirt, kill team, dirt.
Thank you for that excellent producer Josh impression, Fabio. Appreciate it. Echoes of Eternity is our Kill Team League, and it is rolling along. We are 2 weeks out from the launch of Mission 2. If you haven't gotten your scores in yet, make sure to play your league game and
get those bonus points.
Get those bonus points.
bonus
Get those
raffle
raffle
tickets.
entries in.
Clancy, send me a private message. Sorry,
Yeah,
continue.
do the thing. Thanks. I was
Sorry.
on a roll. No,
Kill
it's fine.
team.
It's fine. Kill Team, yes.
Workers of Eternity.
Mission 2 launches Monday, April 15th. We will have the Mission 2 launch event that Friday the 19th. So there's going to be a bunch of people there to get their Month 2 League game in, get your stamps so you can get your dice and objective markers, which we will show off next week here on the Dusty Auspex podcast. It's going to be great.
Sweet.
Registration is still open. We have 3 spots left. You can find everything you need to know at 40belowgaming.com/killteam.
If you are somebody that hasn't played me at all yet, please message me because I would like to play people that I have never had the opportunity to play against.
Yeah.
So
He's sick of playing me, Ribbit.
can confirm.
Yes. Yuri, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thurston is con life. Whether he's attending as a guest or just playing, he is con life.
Yeah.
We're doing. Go ahead.
We are this is not Fab's lab. This is
This is Portobello Studios. This is the tower. This is a secret bunker we have rented deep below the city. It is impregnable, and it is from here that we will launch our plans to dominate the entire world with 40 Below content.
That was good.
Thanks.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
I didn't want to interrupt that. It was our
No,
rules.
it was.
There's no fumbling of words there.
I know. I needed to give him that.
That's fair. All right. Thank you for joining us. This has been episode 2 of season 6. You had episode 1.5 last week with me and Ben Shantz. I'm just going to rattle off all of these sponsors real quick because we've been rolling for almost 2 hours. It's about that time. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor for 2019, Game Night Games and Cool Stuff. Come out Fridays for Kill Team action. Come out some Saturdays for Bunker Busters. Come out the rest of the time to buy everything you need. Yes. They are fantastic. We'd like to thank Frontline Gaming. They put out all of our ITC related stuff that we use in many of our events. They are fantastic supporters of the tournament scene in 40K across the entire world. Thanks to them for that. Northern Lights Terrain. I've talked about them before. We use their movement bases. We use their terrain. We saw both at the Wheat City Open earlier this year and at Highlander this last weekend.
Check out the billboards.
The billboards, our brand new billboards
Minty.
are
Very
fantastic.
They came out really nice.
We often feature their terrain in our streams as well because it's just so nice. The Manitoba Model Soldier Society is joining us again. There are paint judges.
There are paint judges for Twin Eagles and Plains of War. So
excellent.
you are gonna have. So we're actually talking with them. We're gonna have a whole we're not changing our paint scoring rubric, but we might tweak it a little bit and get kind of some outside perspectives on how to maybe change it up and make it just maybe more exciting. Whatever. We're not going to hide anything. We're obviously going to give everyone notice about it. But yeah, it should be great. But anyway, yeah. So
definitely.
They're going to be doing our judging.
We've got the Holiday Inn Airport Polo Park as our sponsor. Once again, for the 3rd and 4th time, I'm going to shout this out because it's a really nice discount. If you book your room for Plains of War with the Plains of War code, you will get about a 30% discount on the cost of your room, which is huge.
Yes, you're
It is indeed a Necron hoodie he's wearing. Next time he's going to come out in some cosplay. I think by season 8, we're probably just going to see a cybernetic Fabio.
I will soon be a Necron.
He will have Necrodermis happening.
He'll still fail, but we'll be back.
So, 7th Forge Studios. You're going to do that every show?
Yes.
You're going to do that every show.
It might be a thing.
7th Forge Studios is a commission painter out of Alberta. If you were at one of our events last year, Plains of War last year,
Stole the show.
He stole the show with his Night Lords. It was fantastic. Send all your models to them. They are great. You can also go back on their podcast for Favorite of Chaos. A couple episodes back, Fabio's on it talking about all of our stuff. It was a great time.
Yeah, it was good. Oh, they're super chill guys.
Battle Phone.
They make great toppers. I have 2 of them now.
You can actually just one behind us.
Yeah, it's right there. They make a
We're going
topper
to be
like
getting
that.
more custom ones of our logos, so they will be up for grabs at all our events and stuff. So
Yeah, don't be like me. Don't haul your stuff around in old used things and towels and Tupperware containers. Buy the right stuff.
Do what you got to do to protect those models, but when you can.
Best Coast Pairings. We love you still. You're the best. Coast. pairings. They are a sponsor for us as well. They help us run all of our events. They're fantastic to work with. Their stuff has helped us.
Honestly, like if anybody's gonna run an event and you should use it. They it's not just 40K. They have a plethora of systems on their app, and I guess on the web now too. But seriously, like I was having issues during Highlander, and despite it being Adepticon, they got back to me within half an hour.
Nice.
On Facebook.
That's
Like,
incredible.
They are so in tune and know how important it is to be available. It is just they're just a great group of guys. So I actually don't know if it's all guys, so I shouldn't say that, but they're just a great group.
Great group of folks.
Folks.
Yes.
Yes.
Yuri, the data POW is June 1st and 2nd, 2019. It is not sold out. Get your tickets now at
Just
affordablegaming.com.
under 33%.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Ba-da-ba-da. CM Engrave. They are doing all of our plaques and stuff, and it's gorgeous. I'm jealous of all the players that get to compete on our events and win these awesome
They're just
prizes,
a nice
these
local place.
trophies.
Don't
It's
say
directly
nothing.
behind
They'll be
Thurston right now.
on that trophy for next Monday, you son of
Fine sponsors of local drama, CM Engrave. I want that stuff. It's been shouted out in the chat. They're a great Storm. Brandon. Love going out there. I love going out there because I get to play things instead of pointing cameras at them. It's a fantastic time.
They got a great place out there.
Yeah.
Corey's great. You know, their community's really thriving, and it's cool that we get to be a part of kind of that culture, and they similarly get to be part of ours. So it's really great. And yeah, Corey was able to bring out some really cool prizes for Highlander too. So
Definitely.
that was really dope. So thank you, Corey.
It was a good third round opponent for you, I hear.
Yeah. It was, ooh boy, that was
That was a game.
that was a lot of drinking. I mean, well, a game. It's awesome.
Lastly, AYBOnline.com are fine local sponsors of much of our streaming equipment. They are putting on their next Baseline event the May long weekend. Go to AYB Online on Facebook. Check out that. This has been episode 2, season 6 of the Dusty Auspex podcast. That's Fabio. That's Thurston. If you're not rolling runs, you're cheating. I'm going to click the button now. Thank you for joining us.
Adios.
See you next week.